lives in each of our communities and each of our homes and our cities. This is something that burns deep in my heart. I have a 7-year-old daughter, and she means the world to me. And I see children up here, and I know that a lot of times your parents may not be home because they're working, and the world out there is so large. But I can tell you that you can overcome it if you can just change your mindset and focus on you and focus on all of your good things. And so I could talk about this forever and ever and ever, so I'm just going to just pass it on and say thanks for having me here, and I'm glad to be here.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Felix Curtis, and for the last 6 years I've been living here in Charlotte. Prior to that I was living in Oakland, California, where I was the executive director of Black Filmmakers Hall of Fame. For 22 years we did film festivals and recognition celebrations for Black performers and actors. Coming here, I decided to start a monthly film series, which is at the Gantt Center. It's called the Classic International Black Cinema Series, in which I present films from the early beginnings of Black cinema into the present. And I've seen all types of films, of course, and image is definitely an important aspect of what we have to control. And at the present time, we don't have that control. And I think part of our discussion today will be centered upon what we accept and what we don't accept.
Good morning. My name is Charles Easley. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I teach video and film production at Johnson C. Smith University, my alma mater. My job, or why this topic is important to me, is because my students are African American. And so being a Black woman in film, it's my job to make them think outside the box. And for those who are frustrated with the images that they do see, or those that out-represent them, teaching them to be the change that they want to see. So it's very important to me, and in my free time, I write and watch movies all day. So, welcome.
Years we did film festivals and recognition celebrations for Black performers and actors. Coming here, I decided to start a monthly film series, which is at the Gantt Center. It's called the Classic International Black Cinema Series, in which I present films from the early beginnings of Black cinema into the present. And I've seen all types of films, of course, and image is definitely an important aspect of what we have to control. And at the present time, we don't have that control. And I think part of our discussion today will be centered upon what we accept and what we don't accept.
Good morning. My name is Charles Easley. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I teach video and film production at Johnson C. Smith University, my alma mater. My job, or why this topic is important to me, is because my students are African American. And so being a Black woman in film, it's my job to make them think outside the box. And for those who are frustrated with the images that they do see, or those that out-represent them, teaching them to be the change that they want to see. So it's very important to me, and in my free time, I write and watch movies all day. So, welcome. But it's going to take a lot of dedication and a lot of work and a lot of people who want to make that change to be in place in order to make that happen. Coming off the brinks of, the big hip-hop movement and all of the hip-hop artists now going into film and trying to be film artists and bringing that hip-hop image into that, different arena, is starting to change the way that our African Americans are represented in film. rein that back, start to bring our more ordinary people back in, and start reflecting how we are on a day-to-day basis and how we live in our everyday lives, and not the flashy bling bling and trying to be more than what it is and get back to basics.
I think I have a personal story to really kind of tell how these images really affect, especially on you. I had one of my students, a young African-American film student, comes into my office and typically wants me to read and review scripts. And so I'm reading the script, and the first pages are N-word this, and people are stealing, and he's disrespecting women, and you know, I have to close my door because sometimes I have to, you know, have conversations with some old black folks had with me when I was younger. And so I asked this young man, I was like, so your energy, my interaction with you, do you speak like this? He said no. I was like, do you hang out with young men who speak like this? No. Do you reference young women like this? No. Are you even from the East Coast? No. I'm from South Carolina. Why are you trying to write about experiences that are not yours? It was so apparent that, and that's what brought to his attention, you've been given an opportunity to tell any story that you want. As a filmmaker, and again, this is where the responsibility comes. Tell your story. If you do it with authenticity, that's what the audience is going to respond to. You don't have to regurgitate what is already out there. You have an opportunity to change, and that's what I'm always trying to instill in my students, that you are change agents. You know, we celebrate that there is definitely more work in Hollywood. We see the progression, the success of people like Tyler Perry. You know, we see the success of, you know, the recent Oscars with Octavia Spencer. But I always have to step back and put that within this historical context. You know, in 1939, Hattie Van Daniel was the first African-American woman to win an Oscar for her role in Gone with the Wind. We fast forward, we are in now in 2012. Nothing to disrespect the role that she played. Both she and Viola Davis were wonderful in those films, but I find it ironic that here we are in 2012 and someone who's in the same category still as a domestic. So those are the things that we want to challenge.
For our young people, that means that a maid, someone doing work for someone else. I just want to make sure to clarify. We don't have that same historical context we do. We've talked a little bit about what our hearing and responsibility, and I'll start with you. In your words, who or what is responsible for the black image that we see today?
That's difficult. Sometimes it's hard. Okay. That's a difficult question to pin down, and it's easy for me to say, this is my opinion, okay? In my opinion, it starts with the parents, okay? And you know, in many homes, the father is absent, okay? The mothers are working hard. Maybe they're not, I'm not sure, okay? We have children going to schools where the educators don't care about them, okay? So we have children that are being raised by the media. We have children that don't have people to say good things to them, to make them feel like they are important, like that one phrase that Viola Davis says in the movies. You are beautiful, you are smart, you are kind. Okay, now thank you, okay? Now, in my house, with my 7-year-old daughter, because I am a hypnotherapist, I make her sleep CDs, as I do for many of the children in my life. And every night, when they go to sleep, they hear me saying, you can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do if you start with you. I don't care what your best friend is doing. I don't care what your cousin is doing, but it starts with you. Responsibility starts with you. And if you don't take responsibility for your children, and guess what? You are responsible for your neighbor as well. Okay? We've all taken our hands off of each other and said, well, I'm just going to do me. That doesn't work. We are all in need of help. So the other day, when I'm driving down the street to pick up my daughter from off the school bus, here comes these 3 little boys running down the middle of the street. I'm the only parent let my window down saying, get out of the street and get on the sidewalk now. He looked at me. I stopped the car. He got on the sidewalk. So the responsibility is all of our responsibility. okay? And you can't send your children to school for 8 hours a day and then send them to after-school care and think that they're going to act the way you want them to act and know the things that you want them to know when the only thing they learn is from other people and not you. So, I hope I made this choice. Okay, I'm sorry. It's really, I'm really passionate.
Mr. Curtis, same question. What are some of the primary, when I recently was asked to do a luncheon for Infinity Broadcasting, I was asked to come to talk about community. And I decided to surprise them and actually discuss what their responsibility was in the development of community and its image. So, Mr. Easley, you are part of the structure as a writer and a staff member of QC Metro as well as some of the other endeavors. What do you see your role as and your responsibility when it comes to developing Black image?
Well, I think, again, it comes back to, it's sort of some of the panelists we talked about. The challenge I have working with my students is really kind of almost deprogramming to a lot of what's been fed. Understanding how we can kind of demystify some of these images. You know, we talk about responsibility, we talk about it on artists, and I agree that, you know, as an artist, you have a certain autonomy in terms of, you know, how you want to present yourself, you know, how you want to create, but we also have to deal with the fact that when you're an artist that happens to be part of a marginalized community, you know, there is a different responsibility there. Whether you take on the responsibility or not is up to you, but the responsibility is different. If Madonna does something, only Madonna is indicted. If Little Kim does something, typically every other Black woman or woman of color is indicted. That is a major issue. So again, when I talk to the students, they have to understand that you are not just an artist. You're an artist who happens to be female. You're an artist who happens to be Latino. You're an artist who happens to be African American. And so, you know, again, whether you take on the responsibility is there. And we have to hold those artists accountable. You can't have it both ways. You know, you can't have a clothing line, you know, and sell tennis shoes for $200, you know, a pop, and then say you're not a role model. No, pick a character. It doesn't work that way.
And we mentioned names like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. How do you feel that current African American leadership has either or both harmed or encouraged a positive Black image? And if you can, be authentic with an example. How have you felt that our current Black leadership, whether we've chosen or someone else has chosen them for us, has either hurt or aided in the positive or negative images of African Americans? And I'll start with Mr. Curtis.
Again, talking about Mr. Felix, I don't see a lot of leadership today that spearheads the movements that, you know, we had in the past. So I think because of the lack of, that in itself harms us, because our youth don't have that one person that they can, you know, look to directly and say, so-and-so said we need to do this and we need to think better. So I think the absence of is what's harming, not necessarily, you know, one individual person. You know, with the election of Obama, we had it going for a while and everyone was, you know, gung-ho, and we have a Black president and students were, you know, getting back into politics, and then it kind of fizzled down. And so we just need to find that one person who's going to, you know, rise up and be the leaders that, you know, our generation needs.
And Dr. Collette, Ms. Easley, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I'm kind of probably going in a slightly different direction. I think that as a community, we almost have to get away from this kind of Messiah concept that there's going to be one person that's going to come in and say this. I think one of the things that we forget that President Obama really kind of charged us and challenged us as a society is that, you know, this is one benchmark, but if this struggle, if this, you know, is to continue, then the leaders we're looking for, look in the mirror. You know, we all have to take accountability. You know, every day I walk, you know, in to the classroom or in doing what I do as an educator, I have to understand that I have the power to affect change. I have the power to, change consciousness of young folks. So it's almost like you're populating this consciousness and this ideology that will go forth and hopefully do great things. So I think again, if we kind of get away from looking for one person to be the leader and understand that we all have a responsibility in terms of contribution, in terms of have the ability to inspire change. My personal view.
Recently, this whole notion of media and responsibility within African American film, particularly by African American filmmakers, has come to the forefront. And that actually was in a somewhat public debate between Tyler Perry and Spike Lee. When you look at Spike Lee's criticism of Tyler Perry, and this is not just a focus on the individual filmmaker, but it is a way to begin to open up a conversation about the responsibility of black filmmakers and where we have either succeeded or failed when it comes to black image. And it's okay to cite examples. We want to be authentic here. So Mr. Easley seems very eager to get to that. So I'm going to let him start.
I always have a problem with, when black filmmakers feel like they have to bicker in public. Spike Lee and Tyler Perry have both had very significant contributions. Do I agree with all the images of Tyler Perry? No. But we have to give him credit. He has basically employed more black folks in the Root series. So we have to understand that he is doing something that no one has done before him. To me, the challenge is to make sure that more people get to the table to share the rich diversity of the stories that are our culture. It's not the responsibility, it's not the burden of one filmmaker and one artist to be responsible for exploring the rich diversity, of the history of a culture of people. So yeah, that's kind of like my take on it.
You want to make a comment?
I would.
Yes.
That one is a loaded issue because, again, like Mr. Easley said, he has employed more African Americans than before, and to create his own studio coming from nothing is exemplary. And so for young filmmakers coming out knowing that this is a businessman that I want to emulate. Now, whether we want to emulate the context or the content, that's something totally different. But then we also have to think, and I had this conversation with one of my students during their senior seminar presentation. They did a paper on the images of black males in college atmospheres, and they referenced the show College Hill, and talked about how they were so upset about the representation of the students fighting and wearing their pants baggy. And I asked them, frankly, are you upset because they showed you on an everyday light, or are you upset at what it is? And we have to understand that even though it may seem as though, it's cooning or shucking and jiving, we need to know that those people do exist in our culture. So are we upset because they exist in our culture, or are we upset because now everyone else across the board is privy to that information? So I think we have to really take onus on that and try to figure out where is our trouble lie in that display.
I agree with you.
Between stereotypes and reality. When are the stereotypes healthy and when are they not? Because even as individual African Americans, we use them also to find each other. So what is the balance between stereotypes and reality? When are they useful and when are they not? Between stereotypes and reality. When are the stereotypes healthy and when are they not? Because even as individual African Americans, we use them also to find each So what is the balance between stereotypes and reality? When are they useful and when are they not?
Oh, sorry. Tyler Perry, I think that's a good example. Tyler Perry's empire really was built upon a stereotype, on Medea. Everything that he has accomplished is based upon that character. Now he's offered actors who have been, who had a lot of talent. He's given them another life, basically, with his pictures, and he's also provided, income for hundreds of other professional, blacks in the film industry. So you have to evaluate: is that image? Are we going to accept that image for what it was, for what benefits it brought, or are we going to denounce it? Of course, in Spike Lee's case, he kind of had a negative approach to it. That was his opinion, but has he provided as many jobs as Tyler Perry in the industry? I don't know. He has not. So I think you have to weigh the pluses and the minuses about some of the images. It's not that a harmful image, except for maybe middle-aged overweight women, but is that the sacrifice you have to make in order to accomplish your goals? That's up to the individual.
You talk about Tyler Perry, and he has a formula, based on a lot of these kind of archetypal, images. He has the black woman who has to be saved. He has the antagonist is typically the dark-skinned brother. The protagonist is usually the light-skinned brother. He's getting lighter and lighter. Stay tuned. Married to a black woman too, starring Justin Timberlake. And I think he plays with these stereotypes. Again, I think that when you, Spike Lee, I think that's part of the bone of their conflict. That Spike Lee was on the Actors Studio, and he said that to be a filmmaker, you have to be learned. It's a craft. You have to study your craft. And he cited Manny Rich, who was like a young kind of flash in the pan who did, I think it was, Inkwell, and there was another film. But because he had not studied the craft, he just kind of faded into the background. So I think again, it's if you have the background to put these images within the historical context, I think they have merit. I think it's problematic when people don't understand those images, don't understand the stereotypes, and so then you see things like Tyler Perry's great, like Meet the Browns, that on one level we say that he's playing with them, but if I don't have that within my background to really be able to appropriately process that visual text, then it looks like really, contemporary, coonery. So
I think I'm agreeing with Mr. Easley, and it really depends on whether it's going to promote healthy dialogue. I mean, if you do have that historical frame of reference, then it's something different. But if this is their only frame of reference into the culture, that's when it becomes problematic. But for it to be something to, it's social commentary, like the whole Medea character. It's the whole point of we don't have that figure in families a lot anymore, is to have that grandmother who wants to keep everyone in line and keep the family in check, and you had someone, instilling discipline. So that's, something for us to talk about. It starts a discussion of where is that character. Now, is she a little over the top? Yes. But it does create that dialogue. Spike Lee was the first one who did the whole good hair, bad hair in school days. And that started the dialogue of what are we doing? What determines good hair, what determines bad hair? Why does this have to classify who we are as individuals? So I think if the stereotypes create dialogue and adds to social commentary and gets us to start to think more, then that's when it's okay. And if it's just there, to be comical and it has no value or substance, then it's a problem.
that in today's society, because African American culture is one of the most influential cultures in the world, not just like China, and every club had the term hip hop as a way to attract people in, particularly Black Southern and Caribbean culture, and arguably said to be the most powerful cultural influences when it comes to media music in our history. If you were to think of at least one or two things that you wanted white America to understand about you, especially when we talk about things like the health, because when I think about the health, what comes more to mind to me was that those women were telling a story because they knew their white counterparts, but their white counterparts did not know them. What is the image or something you want white America to know about the African American community you think they don't know?
I think I'm always liking to tell stories. When I started at the Art Institute, the dean that hired me, we were in an interview situation, and she told me, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. And so I started telling her about where I was from, my influences, Mike was just starting, on his track, and just the whole notion of African American male being able to participate in the industry. And after about a few minutes, she stopped me and she said that, she was like, you said black probably 7 or 8 times in a 2-minute span. And I started laughing. I was like, well, who are you looking at right now? And she said, well, I have a concern that if you're going to come into this environment, that knowing that I've come from a historically black college, would you be able to be successful? Because she said that when I walk in the classroom, I just see students. And I smiled and I was polite again. I said, well, that doesn't work for me. Being someone from a marginalized community, when I walk into a classroom, I see everyone. I see an Asian student and female, which means that I have to understand that culturally she may not be as aggressive in the classroom. I may have to approach her differently. I see Latino, I see black, I see folks who grow up in urban areas. So it empowers me to make this environment much more conducive so that I can be a stronger educator. And so I say all that to say that, I think one of the things that I've been able to be successful, and she saw that I was struggling when she finally asked me to join the faculty, and she said, Charles, I understand that you come from a historically black college and you understand your importance and your stature there, but after we knew each other, she said that all of these students need to see you, and as you can see, these are my students over here, just the one. And so it's been my experience that, above my color is the characteristics, it is how I carry myself, it is how I inspire as an educator and as a leader, and it's the characteristics that they look towards and as a role model. So that's kind of like been my experience.
Question is, does anyone here feel that the media portrays African Americans in a positive way?
Can I ask you a question in return? Do you think that the media portrays black people in a positive way? And if so, could you give me an example?
Or family matter at this day and age when we have more black producers than before? And also, do you think it is because reality TV has taken over?
Definitely. If you look at the historical context of reality, we've always had reality television, but there was a time where Survivor was introduced. It was only supposed to be a mid-season replacement. Well, what they did not count on was that show became an instant hit. And so when you compare from a producer standpoint, a show like Friends or Seinfeld, where basically before you turn on one camera, at the end of their career, every person on the show is getting $1 million an episode, and you can produce a show like reality television for a fourth of that and still generate the same numbers and the same revenue, then it's a no-brainer. Yeah. So it definitely has an impact.
Yeah, it's all about the bottom line and what sells. And so if you don't have the patronage for the African American sitcoms, then no one's funding it in order to create them because they don't think that it will survive and it's not worth the investment. But we do have the new show like Read Between the Lines where Malcolm Javon Warner and Tracy Ellis put their own money in to produce the show because they're trying to get back to that family sitcom and getting us back on TV. But not everyone is watching it. So the whole point is that if we want to see more of it, then we need to patronize what's out there now to let them know that there is an audience and there is a demographic that needs more. If you can use that image in order to create something good, then I think that's what we need.
You know, that's been historically an issue. You know, when The Color Purple was nominated for, I think it was 12 Oscars at the time, you know, it didn't do as well because the NAACP came out against and said that the role that Danny Glover played did not portray black men in a positive light. It was not the responsibility of that one book and that one movie to, again, represent black men. For me, again, it's the fight of getting more people to the table to tell the story so that it becomes less polarized in terms of positive and negative, but this rich exploration of everything in between.
And if you want to make a difference, you should.
Yeah, let's give our panel a round of applause. Listen, get ready to close a great time, but I just want to, again, thank our panel for their honesty and being straightforward, and you as the audience for being a fabulous audience, really listening, and I like the fact that it was our young people who led the charge with the first question, and that means a lot to me, and it means a lot to us. Let me just say